Hello, Zeb Aurelios from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Inside the Force. Carabas. Gotta go, Hera's here.
It is a period of Star Wars mania, as new movies, comic books, novels, and TV shows populate the system. Fueled by their love and passion for the galaxy far, far away, two exceptional geeks tap into hundreds of holocrons in order to bring you the knowledge and insight of all things Star Wars. Come and join them as they go inside the Force.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here, and talking with me on this big episode. I can't just have one. I got two guests with me because Casey's still being a dad thing, which is great for him. But I got in studio Cody Guiler.
Hey everybody,
how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for being in.
97 days till The Last Jedi.
97 days.
I can't wait.
That's right. And then in Studio B, I got Inside the Force's Russell Johnson. How are you, sir?
What's up, guys?
Doing good, doing good. We'll get to Russ's comic reviews, of course, here soon. Go to InsideTheForce.com and read those. Some great comics coming out, which we'll go through here in a second. But traditionally, we obviously talk about some news and stuff like that. There's some big news about Episode 9 that we'll talk to kind of later in the show because that's a big topic we want to get through. But first off, we'll get through the kind of the quick news. First thing is Force Friday was last week.
Force Friday was awesome.
Now, Russ, did you get to experience Force Friday? Because I know you were out of town last weekend.
Not in the traditional sense of experiencing Force Friday. I went online that morning to saw all the new stuff that was coming out, and I did when I was traveling. I was way up north, and we were in a very small town, and I went to a Walmart there, and I purchased. They didn't have a lot of stuff that I didn't find anywhere else, but I did get a very cool Admiral Thrawn action figure, Black Series.
Oh man, see, I couldn't find one of those.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dang it.
The only reason I got it was because in the bin of all the different toys, action figures that were in there, there was only one Thrawn. So I was like, I'm getting that one.
Yeah.
And then I got a cool little, just small Kylo Ren's new TIE Fighter from Last Jedi, the little thing I can prop up.
Yeah.
So, I got a couple things. But I looked at all the new stuff that's coming out, so I was pretty excited about it. It was cool.
Nice. Cody, we went out for the afternoon a little bit. You went for the morning first.
I helped open the...
You did two sessions, didn't you?
I did. I double dipped on Force Friday. I helped open the Disney store.
Yes.
Here in town.
My daughters do that.
But yeah, it was awesome. Woke up early, stood outside. Ladies come up front, and there's just a bunch of dudes, like adults, hanging outside the Disney store in our Star Wars shirts. So they start playing the Star Wars music, and we're all excited. And they're like, "Okay, if you guys can help us, we're going to do something special to open the store today." So they had us all reach out with our hands, and use the Force to open it, and the magical key girl behind the thing opens it, and it was fun.
That
was a lot of fun.
Awesome. I've never been able to do that.
Well.
Usually, normally you get a key.
That's what. Yeah, I
normally
don't get a key.
They come out with a big key because they have the lock, right? That's there, and you put the key in, you turn it, and then the thing drops, and then they give them a souvenir key. Both my kids have done it before; they've gotten the keys.
I did not get a souvenir key.
I know. Remember we were talking about that.
Maybe I didn't meet the age requirement.
Well, I don't because they didn't use the key. That's probably why they didn't give you the key.
The key is in me.
The key. You are the key. Yeah. So yeah, you guys hit up Disney Store early. And then Target and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we went to a couple places. I had some things that I wanted to. I collect.
Where were you shooting for?
Funko Pops is kind of what I collect. So I was looking for the new Luke Last Jedi figure. I wanted to get a Snoke. And then I wanted to just to sort of look and see, if they had any new T-shirts, little things like that. There was some Porg stuff, so of course I had to get a Porg.
Porg, I know.
They're just so cute. So I had to get one of those. But yeah, it was fun. Went to a couple different stores. It was funny. The first two places I went, I couldn't find a Luke pop, so I felt like Rey in The Force Awakens. I was just looking for Luke the whole time, and then we finally ended up finding him.
Yeah, so we ended up going to lunch that day later because I couldn't make it that morning then. We ended up going to a different part of town, different Walmart. No, we didn't go to Walmart. Different Target. We went to Barnes and Noble, which has a lot of pops, and it actually had a lot of stuff there. And that's where Luke was, I think, right? Did we find Luke there?
We found Luke at Hot Topic, actually, because they had the largest
you're right.
pop collection. But yeah, Barnes and Noble had a good selection of pops. I got the Praetorian Guards.
Yes,
those are cool. I wanted them to guard my Snoke pop.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I've got those set up now.
Yeah, we went to Barnes and Noble. I wanted to get the books that came out. So Phasma came out, the novel by Delilah Dawson, and then Claudia Gray's book of Leia, which takes place before Episode 4. I think it's during the Rebels era, which is pretty cool. So, of course, I only buy them for. Everybody knows on this show, I only buy them to put them on a shelf. I do the audiobooks. So I haven't gotten into those yet because I'm still in the middle of finishing up Twilight Company, which is the first Battlefront book, which is actually really good. I'll mention this real quick. You guys would appreciate this, being big fans. But Twilight Company, Casey had already done it, and he's held off because he knew I was going to get into it to review it on the show. But it's so killer because it's about this group of rebel soldiers, and it skips. So it's during, it's right after Episode 4. So the Death Star has been, and it's cool because they make references and talk about Commander Skywalker and cool. Darth Vader, almost like they're just untouchable, like they're out there and doing the thing, and they got their duties, which is the front lines. And like I just finished up, they were like, this whole company was like in that middle of Hoth, that Battle of Hoth. Like they saw the walkers come down.
Oh, that's awesome.
And oh man, and then the guy experiences Vader. I mean, it's like, because he doesn't know about Vader. Vader's like blocking bolts with his hands. So think about this, the time when in Empire, you see Vader show up in the base, right? He's walking down. And then next time you see him, he's walking in when the Falcon's taking off, right?
Yeah, walking through that hallway.
Well, this book talks about what happens in between.
Oh gosh,
it's freaking awesome, man.
Does he just charge the front lines?
Basically, he's down this hallway, and you got these groups, you got these soldiers on both sides, you got the stormtroopers behind him, and that's what it's basically almost not. It's not first person, but it's basically this main squad leader that's talking about the stories, and he's talking about how they're firing down, and there's this black figure just standing in the hallway, just deflecting these bolts. And he's like, at first he's using his hand. He's like, he's yelling out he's like, force field. Like he's saying that Vader's got, and he thinks he's a machine. Like he does. He's like, but then he says, he pulls the lightsaber out and he starts moving. He's like, there's flesh underneath that. It's actually a human. So there's this, that's what's cool. They're talking about Vader this whole time. Like they don't know. No one knows what he is.
Like they've never seen him.
They've never seen him. They think he's just this myth. That he's scary. They even think, they actually even had mentioned it there. I think that that they also mentioned there sometimes. I think it is. Yeah, I think it's this. That maybe it was just he's like some fake creation to make you fear him. That there's not like a scarecrow almost.
Yeah.
Like there's this thing there that you're supposed to be afraid of, but he doesn't actually do anything. But then he does something in it, and they're like, run. It's so awesome.
Wow.
So he does his thing, and then the stormtrooper comes up and is like, we have located the Millennium Falcon. And then it's the scene in Empire, right? So it's so freaking awesome, man, these books.
That's cool.
So Twilight Company is really good so far. I got about half the chapters, about halfway through it. And I think it goes all the way through. It goes through the Battle of Endor. So it's the same kind of guys. Some get out, some make it, some don't. But anyway, I'm going to move on to probably, I really want to do that Leia book.
The one you got for Force Friday?
Yes. I really want to know about, because I thought the Bloodline book, which I think, didn't you read? No, you didn't read Bloodline.
I haven't read Bloodline yet.
Bloodline is so good.
I've heard it's great. I've heard Claudia Gray is
really good. Now, she did Lost Stars, which I haven't read. Casey read it. He liked it. But I'm just so interested in Leia pre-episode 4, that her whole backstory. And then, of course, Phasma I'll get to. But yeah, so I was really wanting those books. I was really looking for some pops. But I was looking for what Russ got, unfortunately. I was looking for Thrawn. And I was looking for Black Series Luke as well.
A lot of the Black Series and
They were gone.
The Target, Walmart that I went to were picked through. I guess a couple of those stores had midnight openings.
All of them did.
So
Disney Store didn't. That's why.
I saw Kylo Black Series. I saw Vader Black Series.
Yeah.
They made another version of Vader that came out for this, but yeah, I didn't see a lot of Black Series, honestly.
No, they were gone. That whole display at Target was empty. So I ended up getting some pops, some books, and then is that all I got? Yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I got too. Some pops and some. So I'm gonna look online and try to get some. Oh, I get those Disney Store figures, the Elite Series ones.
Oh, the Elite, yeah.
Yeah, the Pantorian Guard, which is on the shelf there, that's awesome. Those are really, really neat. So Force Friday was fun. It was great. It's just killer to see everybody. I mean, there's so many people going out to stores like that and getting stuff. Now, unfortunately, I saw on Twitter, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but there's midnight, like a little late because I stay up late. There were some people going to stores and they just didn't get a lot of stuff and they were mad.
Well, that's the thing is I've heard it seems like there's a shortage of supply for the amount of people that are actually participating in Force Friday. I thought it was interesting, to see, Russ, what you were able to find when you were on the road traveling, that you were able to find like a Black Series figure. Because even around here in Lexington, I mean, there just weren't a lot of Black Series figures.
Right.
So I just wonder if that's going to be a common thing for Force Friday, or if they're ever, going to.
Isn't it up to? I don't know. Is it up to the stores to request a certain amount of inventory?
I'm sure it is. Yeah. So there may just not be enough demand.
I guess.
Where we're at, or if we didn't.
Or are they just under demanded? Under predicted. What the demand would be.
One thing I forgot that I got at the Disney Store, being like one of the first, 100 or 50 customers.
Oh, yeah,
did you get the posters?
Yeah, I did get
as
the
well?
posters too. Yeah.
The Disney Store had these really cool, exclusive
the character posters,
Last Jedi posters. They're about 13.5 by 9 or so,
right? Yeah, or 11 by 14, maybe something
like that. Yeah,
yeah, pretty cool. Very, very cool. The one thing I was. And maybe I guess maybe they went fast, but what I was wanting to do too was try to find those store specific exclusives. Like I think there was I know Hot Topic had specific Porg. Like they had
I got a flocked Porg.
Flocked Porg. Didn't get
not with the mouth open.
Right.
They had two exclusives, and the one with the mouth open is actually the more rare one.
Yes.
Which is just odd, but they have one that looks the exact same, flocked, Hot Topic exclusive.
And again, maybe they had it, but like Target had two exclusive Pantorian guards. There were different helmets, different weapons.
Those would be cool to
Those
find.
would be cool. So
Walgreens was supposed to have some
they had
exclusive.
some exclusives. Yep. So I don't know. And Jeb went to the Walgreens looking for exclusives. He couldn't find them. So, but anyway, Force Friday was awesome. I guess we'll get another one before episode 9 because it doesn't seem like they're doing it. They're not doing it every year.
Well, they did Rogue Friday before Rogue One.
Yeah, but that was weak.
It wasn't the same.
No, it wasn't the same.
But it is just cool to see all that stuff in stores and the augmented reality stuff you can do on the Star Wars app.
Yeah,
where you go up to the posters. I don't know if you guys did any of that at the stores.
I saw that. I saw some of those.
But that was fun to get to just get the Star Wars app out and see some of the characters. Chewbacca just growling in the middle of Disney Store.
Yeah, I did Target with my kids. We went in there later, and on the weekend, and there was a stormtrooper in First Order, and he's sitting there going, "Move along, come on, move along."
That's cool.
It's really neat. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, so moving on a little bit, wanted to just briefly talk about comics that just came out this week that Russ here, if you go to InsideTheForce.com or our Facebook page, you can get links there. Some great reviews that he's put out for these new issues that have hit. 2 new series that just came out that started. Mace Windu #1 hit, as well as Phasma, Captain Phasma #1. And So Russ, what do you? I guess summarize your kind of reviews on those real fast.
Well, I'll start off by saying that I was very pleased that both the writer and the artist for Captain Phasma #1 retweeted the review online.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool for them to see that. Start tagging people, the writers and artists in the tweets and all that kind of stuff. So that was very cool of them to do that. I thought that Phasma was. I watched a lot of reviews online because after I read it, I wasn't confused, but it's some of the narrative is a little complex, and if you want to know the backstory of Phasma, go get the book Phasma. That's what it's about. As you were saying, this is a story. This is a miniseries that starts off literally at the moment that Phasma is in the trash compactor.
That's what I'm excited to see that.
Yeah.
Han and Finn, dumped her in there after she dropped down the shields. What's interesting about it is, and I don't want to spoil too much about this book, but it really picks up right from there, and her being very, her military mind is very driven and very by the book and very just, direct. But the story is about her escaping the trash compactor, but also trying to cover her tracks for her being the one who dropped down the shields on Starkiller Base. What's interesting about that is that she starts the narrative off with a recording to First Order generals and superiors about her mission once the shield was dropped, kind of in a ruse to say, I'm going to find out who dropped the shields, basically, even though she knows she did it.
Yeah.
So the narrative goes along the lines of a very structured mission to find out who did this. So from that point of view, it's not confusing. It's just very deliberate, and you almost buy into the fact. You're kind of like, what did someone else? And it's just this weird way it's done because there's like a time code on it. It says 1521, and then it goes back to 1511, and all these different time codes within the story kind of jumping a little bit back and forth from the moment that she dropped the shields, and then trying to cover her own tracks at the same time. Not only erase it, but pin it on someone else. So this story is going on simultaneously with the end story of Starkiller Base, Kylo Ren fighting Rey out in the woods, and you get a little bit of crossover with the main story from Phasma's perspective, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
And you see how she actually escapes Starkiller Base. So it's a great story. If kind of my take on it is that when Phasma was first introduced before the movie, we ever saw the movie, we're all like, oh, Captain Phasma, this is going to be a cool new character, and we're going to get all this kind of deep story about another character we know nothing about. And there are a lot of characters in Star Wars where you get that initially, but when the movie actually appears, they don't have a whole lot to do. I mean, they're integral to the story, but they're not kind of as fleshed out as you'd like them to be. And Phasma's one of those characters. So this is a great little tag along, kind of fill in story of how she got off the base, and because it ties in so tightly, it's so tightly wound to the end of Force Awakens that it's just a cool perspective. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool story.
Cool.
I like the fact that Phasma is dedicated, but she's also not above selling someone else out to save herself. And you do get an introduction to a character, and I will not spoil this because when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute. We get the first appearance of a character that we first saw on Force Friday, actually. This is the first appearance of a certain character. I won't say who it is on air. I'll tell you afterwards if you want to know. And it's not explicitly spelled out in the comic, but it's obviously a certain character that's coming in The Last Jedi. So it really ties in well with The Force Awakens. It's going to lead up to a nice kind of story arc, I believe, going into The Last Jedi and kind of flesh her out a little bit more. And if you're a fan of Star Wars or a fan of Phasma, you want a little more detail on her, I highly recommend this book.
Cool. Okay, what about Mace?
Now, Mace Windu, I was a little kind of I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was a great story. It's a good start to this miniseries. You get a little bit more about Mace, and it's kind of a first mission to go after a very kind of obscure separatist base. And, we get some familiar characters. We get Yoda, some other characters we know from the movies, but then some new ones, and we get a little detail behind them. So he's got his own little rogue team, basically just trying to track down some separatists and kind of resecure a certain planet on the outer rim. They're going to work their way from the outer rim back into the center, basically, starting at Coruscant. And there's some really good psychological stuff going on with what happens in the Jedi Temple with Yoda, and again the fear of this bigger, badder dark side coming along, and you get his perspective on that a little bit more. But all told, it's kind of a good start, story, but it doesn't really, I think hopefully the next issues coming are going to flesh it out a little bit more into a much bigger story, which I'm sure it will be. But as of right now, it's just to kind of remind you who Mace Windu is from the prequels, and kind of reintroduce him a little bit, and as the leader of a group of Jedi going after some separatists. So the teaser to the next issue is pretty cool. Star Wars comics do a really good job of, after the story's over, you get basically a one-page splash on what's coming, and it's very vague. It's just a picture of a character or something like that. And this is another one. I've never seen this character before. I don't know how it's going to play into it. I don't know what this character's motivations are or anything. It's a whole new thing. So I'm hoping that's going to, spin into a bigger story, nicer story, and more fleshed out story. But it's a good read. It's fun. It's not a bad book. But I definitely, out of all the Star Wars kind of miniseries that are coming out, this was not my favorite, but it's a solid book.
Cool.
Does he say this party's over?
No, he does not.
Okay, cool. But I do want to weigh in on what I thought was an incredible book, and obviously a series that's going on right now, is Darth Vader, Volume 2, which written by one of my favorite, and I know yours, Charles Soule.
Yep.
So Vader number 5. The big thing I want to talk about with this is we've been talking. Me and Casey been and Russ has been reviewing them online, and me and Casey have been talking about on the show about how this series taking place directly after Episode 3. And do you know about this series yet, Cody?
I do. I haven't started it, but
okay.
I've heard about it.
So it's really hitting on an aspect that has really never been fully canonized, I guess, until recently, which is how Sith get their lightsabers, and the whole issue with the crystal and how it is controlled and stuff like that. Because beforehand, I'm sure it was pretty much assumed that if you have Cody, if you're a Jedi and you have a blue lightsaber and someone kills you or takes it, they take it and they use it. It's still blue and whatever. But with the Sith, the crystal does not respond to a dark side user. Basically, you have to, what they say, bend the crystal to your will, to the will, right? And that's what make it bleed. That's why it turns red. And that wasn't actually. Go ahead.
He's basically you're taking all the dark side, the pain, your fear, all the things that make you a Sith or part of the dark side. You pass that along to the crystal, make it feel all that pain, all that hatred, all that.
Correct.
Anger. So
that's right. And again, most people, I remember when, because it was first canonized or talked about really in the Ahsoka book, because a lot of people questioned when she shows up on Rebels, she has white lightsabers. and there's not white crystals. So it was like, well, where did those come from? So it's explained in that book how those were red Sith crystals, lightsabers that she had taken and kind of healed. So when they're healed, they turn white. So we're told then about the bleed part. Well, we haven't seen or heard how it happens. Well, this book shows Vader doing that, and it is awesome because there's that Russ, and I know you liked it too, but there's that kind of that dream sequence or vision that he had where he decides to actually not bend it and do what he should have done, which is
right.
I don't want to reveal. I guess I don't want to reveal too much because it just came out, but
but that's a good point. That was part of the story that when I was writing my review about it, I didn't, kind of like you, I don't want to spoil it.
Right.
But Charles Soule's the writer. He kind of throws you for a loop. He throws you a curveball.
He does.
Going into this when he's like, okay, now I have the crystal. I've got the saber. And what I really liked about this book was that I initially went into this going, okay, now he's got his saber. Now it's going to be red, and he's bent it to his will, and now his journey is concluded. Let's move on to the next arc. Well, he kind of squashed that right from the beginning with his first talking to the Emperor, and the Emperor's like, "You're not done yet."
Yes.
And then he throws the curveball about the whole when he's actually working with the crystal. That I was thrown for a loop. I'm like, "What is going on? Do I know nothing about how Vader becomes Vader?"
Yeah.
I really thought, was this something that we're going to now know that we've never seen before? And then, when it comes back to, I think it just demonstrates Vader's will to go to the dark side.
Yeah.
He's still struggling. That's whole series has been him struggling with being, in this new robotic body and outfit and dealing with his powers and everything else, to struggling with whether or not it's still a long journey to get to become a full-blown Sith, right? With a saber and everything. So him struggling with all this and kind of being like a newbie in his body and not really having to control it is a really interesting take on Vader that we've never seen before. That's why I'm loving this book, and I love the way just him transforming a crystal has been, again, kind of getting inside Vader's head, about struggling with the light and dark side still. And I think that the fact that Charles Soule has done the majority of this without ever putting a word on paper, a lot of these are just panels. And the artwork from Giuseppe, I can't pronounce his last name, Camuncoli, is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, he walks you right through everything he's doing, and you don't really lose a beat. You don't lose the narrative because there's not words on the page.
Right.
There's a lot of that.
There is a lot of that.
It's masterfully done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's fantastic. And just the fact that that's because that just raises so many other stories and questions that you can do, especially with, Sidious, where'd he get his sabers and crystals? Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't have one, because you learn in Clone Wars, he has two. So, when he fights Maul and Maul's brother Savage, he pulls two red lightsabers out. So it's like he's got two crystals. I mean, they made a book, which was James Luceno wrote a Plagueis book, which is no longer canon. So a lot of his backstory is in that, unfortunately. I don't suspect a lot of it's going to change, but I'm sure they're going to come out with a Palpatine book or something like that. That's kind of have his whole story and
it's just called Sheev.
Sheev, that's right. Sheev, that was so weird. But and it's interesting about this too because I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys haven't read the novel Lords of the Sith, which was one of the first canon books. I think it was the second one. I think it came out right after New Dawn. Mm-hmm. And I just got through that one right before I started Twilight Company. And that one's interesting. And I haven't talked about it on the show yet, and I'll do a little bit more in depth probably later. But the one thing about that book is really, basically to summarize it real fast, is that it basically, him and Palpatine, him and the Emperor. And now this one takes place, it doesn't specify completely, but I think it's within like 3 or 4 years after episode 3. So it's after this comic series.
Okay.
But it's before, Rebels and all that stuff, right? It's real early because, and why I say because is because there's the whole book. Vader's still thinking about his previous life, and he's still struggling. Like he thinks of Obi-Wan. He's thinking of Padme. He's thinking of, it's weird. And then the Emperor knows this, and he's constantly trying to get it out of him. So there's a struggle still there in Vader that I don't know at what point it goes away, because I feel like it has to go away by Rebels, because Filoni has been known in Rebels to say, like, the part where Ahsoka comes back and he's like, Anakin's gone. Like, he has killed Anakin, and so at some point, and it really didn't happen in this book necessarily, but at some point, that struggle ceases to exist, and he's Vader. But there's still still going on.
What is the catalyst?
But obviously, it doesn't go away fully because Luke is able to bring him back.
Because
right?
there's still light in him.
That's right. So it's interesting to know and just to know and hear those stories and see those stories. But it was a little odd because at that point in that book, when I'm reading it, Lords of the Sith, and you're hearing what's going on and all this stuff, it's the struggle with Vader was a little. It was just strange to me. I felt like the book, if the book comes across as being this dark side power of Vader and the Emperor doing this mission that's going on in this book, and like there's nothing going to stand in their way. It's just going to, but then there's that struggle going on, and I'm like, I did not expect that, and I did not expect that out of Vader, because I figured, after episode 3 or something like that, I mean, he's just evil, but there's still. I mean, the whole light thing, there's still a struggle there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's really cool. And again.
Yeah, he's, I was going to say that you guys keep talking about the novels and things like that. For somebody like me who hasn't read any of the novels, this comic book series is a really good source of information on how things like, the Sith get their kyber crystals read.
Yeah.
And Vader's struggles and things like that. But just kind of pigtailing on what you're saying there, Dave, about Vader struggling. Yeah, Vader struggles, and he does look back on his previous life, but he always, and this series has been very much this. All 5 issues have been, he's got that struggle, but he's willing to overcome it.
Right.
I mean, he'll immediately be like, nope, screw that. I'm a Sith.
Yes.
He's still dealing with it, but he automatically turns back to that evil guy. He never falters.
No.
And goes, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. No, he still deals with it, but I think he's still, I like still the characterization of him just saying, no, screw it, I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of like killing the younglings. It's like, I'm gonna show up. I'm sure at one point he's like, maybe I shouldn't do this. No, I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
That's just the way.
No, very true.
He is. But I agree with the whole struggle part. It's very insightful. And it's a lot of good fill-in information if you really want to get in that kind of mindset of figuring it all out,
But that's also, I feel like, though, a part of Vader that a lot of, I wouldn't say diehard fans, because I consider us diehard fans, but a lot of extremist Star Wars fans feel like, what do you say? Like, it humanizes him too much to where that because those fans that believe 4, 5, and 6 Vader that's Darth Vader, and how when 1, 2, and 3 came out is like, well, it doesn't make him as menacing anymore. So there's a lot of people that still even comment how stories before episode 4 are just change him too much for 4, 5, and 6. Which I don't agree with.
Yeah, I would disagree.
I think it completely adds to his character, and even more so.
I wasn't in the camp that it changes him completely, but like I say, when you see Vader for the first time in 4, in 4, 5, and 6, you get a more menacing character than you do of a young kid who grows up and he's still struggling and he's kind of whiny at times and he's got to do this and that. But that said, again, even going back to what Cody said there, but Vader does get redeemed in the end. That's kind of the whole point of the story. So there's got to be that sense of light still in him. He's still got to have a little bit of it in him to actually go back to the way he was, to save his son. So, I mean, that's the whole point of the story, right?
Totally.
So, yeah, I can agree with a lot of those points as far as that goes. I'm not in the camp of, the first 3 ruins Vader, but it does make him less menacing in my eyes because, again, I saw him when we listened to my commentary on episode 4.
Yeah.
It was a totally different experience for me when you see him come through those doors for the first time. Much like if you were, my kids today and all I saw was Rogue One. And all I saw was Vader just slaughtering these people. It makes him much more evil.
But
that'd be a great place to start.
It would be, but
you still keep the mystery.
But even so, though, I was about to say, now doesn't Rogue One make him that menacing character for 4, 5, and 6 again?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you do it in that order, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you throw in Rebels, because in Rebels he's flat out ruthless too.
Yeah, it's true.
So he has become that character. I think again, instead of going from, like you said, that the whiny Anakin kid in 1, 2, and 3 to 4. I think now you're seeing, and again, I think these books and these comics are also lending to the fact that he is this evil person and trying to bury his past and whatnot. So
the new canon,
the comics definitely are.
Yeah.
I mean, this series of comics here has been. I mean, even going back to some of the stuff that's been in Dr. Aphra and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When Vader's a part of it, he's still a bad dude. I mean, there's no wavering with him in these comics. He's still as driven and as evil as ever, and kind of self-preservation mode all the time. So it's even I still agree that Vader hasn't become less menacing. It's just once you see behind the scenes a little bit, it changes perception a hair. But I mean, these comics have done these comics have done a really good job making him that villainous character. From the time I was 9 years old. It really has.
What were you about to say, Cody?
I was just going to say the new canon is definitely reinforcing, like Russ was saying, in the comics, and you see it in Rogue One, and you see it in Rebels, that Vader is still very much that Vader that you get that walks through the hallway of the Tantive 4 in Episode 4. I mean, the Rogue One scene is just one of the best scenes I feel like they've done with Vader.
Oh, it has by far.
And Rebels, if anyone hasn't watched it or isn't watching it, I mean, it's a great show, and Vader in that is, I mean, crazy powerful and just ruthless.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep, totally agree.
So moving on to what I gotta say is, I actually wasn't expecting it, and gotta say it's one of the best trailers I've seen, especially for Rebels. But the second trailer for Rebels Season 4 just dropped this past week as well. I think it actually came out on Force Friday also.
I think you're right.
I think it came out then because everybody was wondering if we were going to get a Last Jedi trailer, which we haven't yet.
I know.
I mean, he is really keeping things quiet.
Monday Night Football game sometime in the next month. Right. It's going to happen.
Or Good Morning America or something, yeah.
Yeah.
But, okay, so Rebels Season 4, the last season, we now know the release date based on this trailer, too. So October 16th, premiering on Disney XD.
Which is a Monday?
Yes, I think they moved it to Mondays. Yeah, they moved it to Mondays. So Rebels is going on Mondays, of course, because there's all kinds of shows I watch on Mondays. So Rebels trailers dropped. Cody, what'd you think?
I'm really excited. I mean, it's kind of sad that it's the last season, but I'm also glad that they just went ahead and set this is going to be our last season. We're not going to let this show drag out because, they really could. I mean, they could just slow down the timeline. They're obviously getting very close to the Rogue One timeline, and they got to be careful because, we know we have some mentions and calls to the Ghost and Hera and Rogue One. But, once you get closer to that Rogue One and that Episode 4 timeline, it really can't be Jedis running around.
I know, right?
But, I'm excited. There's just so much... there's so much more at stake. And I think the best scene is when, for me, when you get Kanan talking to Hera, and he's saying, like, how much more are you going to give?
Have you thought about it?
To this rebellion?
Yeah.
And you kind of feel that, like, just the weight in Kanan's voice. And it almost like, I don't know, I start to speculate a little bit where what'll happen to Kanan, what'll happen to Ezra. Is Kanan just going to kind of be done with this whole thing? Like, he's given so much to it, and maybe he ends up losing, people along the way, or somebody, or, maybe it's Ezra, or who knows. And maybe that just makes him just walk away, because he had to be on his own for so long, and he's kind of always been this rogue kind of cowboy character. That's where he started, and his arc has definitely become where he's kind of like this patriarch figure of a family in the Ghost crew.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're going to do like an arc reversal where he kind of just reverts based on something tragic maybe happening. I don't know. But
Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I'm excited. I'm just like Cody. I'm very excited about it. This is one of the animated series that I've actually followed all the way through up to this point, so I've been keeping up with it. And I agree. Not only is Kanan's dialogue with Hera pretty heavy, but I feel like the whole trailer was heavy. It seemed like everything had much more grandiose overtones. The whole thing on Mandalore and Sabine, and I think that's obviously going to be a huge storyline as far as her leading the Mandalorians and the war coming to there, and some of those new weapons that have come that can incinerate people. That was just crazy. And I'm interested to see where all these characters go. We get a lot of we got more Saw Gerrera in there, and we got a little shot of Two Tubes in there as well. So we are getting really close to Rogue One territory. I don't know what to expect, but I think it's going to be huge, and I think we're going to have a lot more drama in this one in this season. Not only because it is the last season, but there's so much more at stake here with the war coming kind of full bore. And Thrawn is obviously be a much more central figure, which would be interesting to see. I'd love to read the book that Dave was talking about on Thrawn, just because I'm really intrigued by his character now, and the fact that he's going to be kind of more front and center in this whole season as far as the Empire. That you got Tarkin in there. It's all kinds of good stuff. Mon Mothma shows up, and we're just getting so close to all this stuff that it's just going to be. I'm sad to see it last season, but I do agree with Cody that I'm glad they're not dragging it out. I'm not glad they're not kind of let's stretch it out a little bit more. We can get more stuff out of it. I like the pace that it's going on. I really look forward to it. I think it's going to be an awesome season.
Yeah. He's obviously able to do what he couldn't do with Clone Wars, right? He wasn't able to end that. This is kind of his ending to. I feel like both series almost, because the Rex storyline, the Ahsoka storyline, those storylines weren't able to be finished. A complete side note, I still think, though, that I just have this suspicious feeling that I have no justification behind this whatsoever. I have this suspicious feeling that there's going to be a final season of Clone Wars still. I do.
Really?
Yes. For some reason, I just feel like, and I feel like it's been worked on. I almost feel like it's been worked on. Like it's like some of the stuff that they've had that they're just fixing up, and then just like kind of the final missions almost, they're going to be like, okay, here's the final season, and here's the last like 10, 15 episodes that completely closes out kind of that. And anyway, I don't know why, just based on going to Celebration and seeing
like the unfinished
story
stuff.
I feel like they're just condensing all of that into like just some real quick stuff. Anyway, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but that's my feeling. But anyway, so yeah, Rebels. The one thing I totally agree with both of you, and I think the whole storyline with Kanan and Ezra or Kanan and Hera is definitely something that it keeps getting hinted at, but never really ever touched on that much during these first 3 seasons. So it's really good to finally hear them talk about that. The X-wing shots. I mean, finally seeing X-wings, where they come from. I don't know. We'll find that out, I'm sure. I'm hoping we get a little bit more Leia, maybe again in this, because we're getting so close. I feel like we must. I mean, we see Bail again. We're in Yavin, but I think the again, one feeling I got, I feel like, so let's just say this is another 22 episodes, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they've been. I think 22 episodes. I think around 1920. I think it's the Rogue One crossover,
and we get Hera in the Ghost.
I feel like we get
see
that perspective.
Battle of Scarif.
Yes,
that'd be awesome.
I feel like that's going to be awesome. Towards the end, and then the series wraps up shortly after that, like right after that battle. Because I think what's going to happen.
That way we don't end on a low note,
right? Yeah, and I think we find out where it happens to Hera, or because again. Is Kanan and Ezra on the Ghost then? I don't think so. Thrawn, something's got to happen with Thrawn because he's not around. And
what does Bail say when Mon Mothma says something about your Jedi friend?
Yes.
So if the Jedi friend is Obi-Wan, obviously Kanan and Ezra can't be there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So something's got to happen with them the first half of the season, and they keep talking about it. I mean. It's hinted in there about paths and about different paths and choosing different stuff and whether or not they're going down they're doing the right path.
Yeah, that's
why I think you saying all those things about the path and choosing the right path. I feel like there's something going to be going on with Ezra.
I do too.
He's been dabbling in the dark side for past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Now that Darth Maul is dead and gone. Is some of those voiceovers here in his head? What is that? So I don't know. I feel like Ezra's going to head down an odd path this season as well.
And what if Ezra just screws up some mission, and that's what happens to some of the Ghost crew?
Right.
That'd be so tragic.
I know. It's going to be very interesting.
And I feel like that could be something that makes Kanan turn his back on it and just go, and unfortunately that means him and Hera probably split because Hera, again, is still around.
She's committed to the
cause. To the rebellion.
Yeah.
Sabine, I wouldn't be surprised if she stays to help rebuild Mandalore because it looks like Mandalore gets wiped out.
I mean, the Mandalorian, that shot of the helmet hitting the ground, and you talk about the weaponry and the fact that they get wiped out by the Empire. I mean, I think that's going to happen.
Correct.
That's going to be a pretty bad blow for the...
Yeah.
Well, I had read some speculation somewhere, I could be wrong, that it's going to come back that Sabine had helped the Mandalorians create some weapons of mass destruction that they were using on the Empire, or trying to use on the Empire, and the Empire's now turned it around. That's that whole destruction scene of those 2 Mandalorians getting vaporized.
Wow.
So it's going to be turned around on her a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she helped build that. So... I mean, that's some speculation that I read online about that.
Yeah, so to me, it could really just be Hera, Zeb, and Chopper on the Ghost during Rogue One.
Man, I wonder where the Thrawn, where that's going to go.
I don't know. I mean, he can't. I mean, they mentioned Krennic.
They mentioned Stardust and Krennic. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Thrawn has to just maybe they do throw Thrawn on some Star Destroyer and tell him. Go out to the unknown regions or something like that and see what you find.
Go find Snoke,
I guess, or something. I don't. Who knows? Maybe he's Snoke. No,
he's the wrong. Yeah,
yeah, no,
wrong pigment.
Wrong pigment. Well, that's what happens. He gets too close to the sun or something like that. Anyway, awesome trailer. Can't wait to watch this season. The only, I guess. The only reason to really be excited after it ends is knowing that we'll probably get something else. I'm sure Filoni is not going to be doing anything else but another Star Wars series. And which kind of piggybacks to a real quick news about, we mentioned this before, but I talked about it even more. So again, but Disney is pulling out of Netflix. So all of their Marvel material, all of their Disney material, all of their Star Wars material is going on their own digital streaming service that they're going to be creating. I think it's scheduled to hit sometime at the end of next year.
Because they bought a company for this streaming service. Is that correct?
I think they're creating their own, aren't they? I think they're completely.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah,
I think everything's leaving Netflix officially in 2019.
2019. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but they mentioned today again, or the other day again, about how this new Disney service, will not only house their 500 or so films, their 7,000 episodes of television, but complete original content strictly for that streaming service. So
you think we'll get the
live action Star
Clone Wars?
But a live action Star Wars, they said, could be a possibility still. You're talking about,
and what if that's Filoni's next gig is a live action Star Wars TV show?
I'd be okay with that. I'd be completely okay with that. I have full confidence in Dave Filoni. Like, to me, he is, he's right. To me, he's right behind like people I want to meet in Star Wars. Lucas, Filoni. Filoni is that level to me. I think he's taken this Rebel story because Clone Wars I love, but he even admits it. I mean, it was all George. George came up with all those stories in Clone Wars, but these are his stories in Rebels, and Rebels has been fantastic.
And I love how they've taken the characters from Clone Wars and worked it in. I mean, that's just been a really big payoff, I think, for fans, but not in a like fan servicey way. Mm-hmm. The way he brought him in and was patient about bringing him in too. So
and having the willpower to hold back, like with Luke in that scene with Obi-Wan, and you could have easily put him in there and shown him, or just for us, the fans. Mm-hmm. But he held back. He even said it too. This isn't about Luke. This is about Maul and Obi-Wan at that point. But even being able to do that, you're finishing Lucas's story from episode 1, right? I mean, that's pretty awesome to think about. So I'm thrilled with whatever Filoni moves on to next. I'm excited. I'm surprised. I was actually, because when we were at Celebration, I don't know if you remember, but they had the Rebels panel where they debuted the first episode and they debuted the first trailer. Mm-hmm. There was another panel shortly after that about kind of centered. I think it was centered around animation or Rogue One, but they talked about possibly that there was going to be an announcement for what's coming next. It obviously never came,
right?
But with these things wrapping up, like a year before it actually releases. Like right now, they would be working on they'd be finishing season 5 actually if they were still going.
So they're working on
something,
potentially finishing a pilot or a first season of the next animation.
Absolutely,
if it's animation. I mean, what do you think that'll be?
I think, and I've said it on this with Casey, my belief is that I think it's Luke between 7 and 8, or 6 and 7.
Oh, after Return of the Jedi?
Yes.
Luke centric, or
more Luke
all original trilogy?
All original trilogy characters, but mainly Luke trying to start the Jedi Temple and all that stuff in that whole series, because there's nothing in that era yet. We haven't seen nothing. We've gotten Aftermath, but that only leads to 1 year after Return of the Jedi. So that's the Battle of Jakku. That's how that ends. So there's nothing up until Bloodline, which is 5 years before. So there's like 20 years there, 24 years there, that there's nothing. And how many Jedi did he start training? How did Ben Solo turn? And there's so much story there, and I feel like they would do that in an animated series.
Yeah,
because that's the only way you can.
That'd be awesome.
You can't recast them.
No,
obviously.
Yeah, no.
So that's what I feel like. I feel like that's prime for a series right there.
Some of the characters that were in. Do you remember Shattered Empire? The comic leading up to Force Awakens. They had
Poe's mom,
Shara. that would be interesting to see some of the rebellion still having to fight the remnants of the Empire potentially. Correct. I mean, that would be right up the Rebels alley of just war, conflict continuing to happen,
and it's interesting because I actually saw a tweet the other day. Someone asked Pablo, like, where did the First Order get the funds and resources to build Starkiller Base, get all these stuff like that? And you know what he said? His response was that they had 30 years to gather resources and do all this. So it wasn't like they just happened to put it all together in the last 5 years before The Force Awakens. This has been in the works. So it is truly a faction of the Empire that has converted under somehow Supreme Leader Snoke, who is now the leader, but somehow that was started to happen truly right after the Battle of Jakku. So again, there's that storyline there of where those characters came from, how it started, how Starkiller Base getting that planet being converted, blah 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 blah. So there's tons of story there about that.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
So I think it'd be pretty cool and I think that's why they haven't let anybody write any books about that era at all, because I think they're going to do a series about it. So and maybe it's a live action series, but it can't be, because you can't have freaking Han and Leia, and
that'd be hard.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
No.
Yeah, they're already recasting Han. Yeah.
Okay, real quick before we get into the big news, wanted your all's take about, because talk about spinoffs. Obi-Wan, excited?
I am so excited. This has been the spinoff that I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see. So, I mean, with the prequels, I mean, a lot of people have their issues or qualms with the prequels. I kind of grew up, when I was really young, 7 and 8, watching the original trilogy on VHS, and then with the prequels as well. And it's still very much nostalgic and a part of, why I love Star Wars. Ewan McGregor, one of the best actors in the prequels. Can't wait to see him come back, assuming he would come back and play Obi-Wan. I just think that'd be awesome.
I do too. Russ, excited?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about this when I was doing commentary for episode 4. That I always feel like even before the prequels, that Obi-Wan's kind of an underutilized character, or at least unthought of character. When people think of a Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi always comes up, but he's not the first one to come to mind. And he's really important in all of this. And I think it's very cool that we're going to be getting something that's going to have, because I thought Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor both being Obi-Wan Kenobi, you have some of the best actors ever playing this character, that I think it's only fitting that we get a story about him and his importance in the whole Star Wars universe, because he's massively important. I think he's almost forgot about sometimes. So I'm definitely looking forward to having some more story about Obi-Wan himself.
And you could get to have voiceover with Liam Neeson trying to teach him how to become a Force ghost. I mean,
yes.
There's all kinds of stuff. You can do with Obi-Wan. I think adding Obi-Wan at the end of going back to Rebels just last season, when he shows up to confront Maul and be the one who takes Maul down, is incredibly important. That's how long has Maul been around, and how long has Maul been kind of menacing in the background all along. We saw this in Rebels. That I think fleshing out Obi-Wan's importance in all this is vital, to the overall Star Wars universe. So I'm definitely excited about it.
See, I thought I had thought, and we talked about it before, but I thought that they would have saved a Maul Obi-Wan match duel on a live action. You bring back Ray Park.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god,
yeah, that'd be cool.
How awesome would that have been? Yeah. Oh my god,
that'd be cool.
Okay, so the big news that dropped, and obviously everybody on Twitter was going crazy about it, but the director for episode 9, which had previously been Colin Trevorrow, known for Jurassic World previously, is now out as director of episode 9 per a statement released by Lucasfilm the other day, citing, of course, again, creative differences between Kathleen Kennedy and Colin. So a new director has not been announced yet. Of course, there's tons of speculation, which we'll even do right now. But interesting news. I feel like my first thoughts were, I feel like that, to be honest, I wasn't that surprised. Episode 9 has not even started production yet. Episode 8 and Han Solo have not even come out yet, so 9 is still a little bit in the distance. The story for 9 obviously has to change because of Leia and Carrie Fisher's untimely death. So it's not surprising, considering also, of course, we already had a director change with Han Solo. So in my mind, Kathleen Kennedy, again, she's kind of, to me, like that Filoni, like what Filoni status is, that I have full trust in Kathleen Kennedy. She is a renowned, award-winning producer, has been in the business for 30 plus years, the biggest movies in Hollywood, the biggest directors in Hollywood. I mean, it's hard to find producers with more credibility than Kathleen Kennedy.
And George handpicked her, right?
Completely handpicked her. It's basically said there's only one person that can run Star Wars, and that's Kathleen Kennedy. And Disney, and I feel like it happened right away. She got hired, and then of course the buyout happened. So it's like that was all part of it. I think we'll buy you, George, but who's going to run it? It's got to be Kathleen Kennedy. So I feel like whatever. I mean, and you look at it right now. I mean, she has not. How has she struck out yet? Or is there any strikes yet? I mean, the movies, obviously, 2 of them over $3 billion gross.
Huge successes.
You've got incredible reaction with Rebels, with the novels, with the comics. It was her idea to merge it all together, no matter how many people are upset about the expanding universe being Legends now and not canon. Everything they do now is canon and is related. You can read that Vader comic and know that impacts what happens in Rogue One, in the later movies. It changes the dynamic, just the continuity changes the dynamic of the films and of these characters without compromising the story and whatnot still, right? I feel like they're taking great care. She formed her idea to form the story group that oversees all the stories. So it's not just, oh, that's cool, let's do that. There's got to be a reason behind it, and every story that's been out there has a reason. And you guys know me enough. I've gone through every novel. Like Twilight Company is the only novel besides the 2 new ones that came out that I haven't read. So I've been through them all. I've read pretty much all the comics. Obviously, watched all the shows and all the movies, and it's like it makes sense. And there's not a story I've read that it's like, oh, I read that story already, or they already did that. You know what I mean? It's really new stuff, new characters. And again, they haven't just done fan service where they've thrown something in just for me. You know what I mean? It's like there's reasons behind it all, and it's so good. Everything's going so good in my mind right now. So, when the question comes up, like, guys, does this hurt Star Wars? No. In fact, I think it ultimately will make it better, because I think that's what the whole point of getting the right person in to make it the right project and the right film for the longevity of Star Wars, right? Because if you start putting crap out there, people are going to start turning away.
Yeah,
I mean, I really truly believe that. Even no matter, Star Wars is not bulletproof, but if you put too much, again, crap out there, people will start smelling. It'll start smelling bad to everybody, and they'll start turning away. I mean, I truly think that, and and again, not everything's been great. I'm not going to sit here and praise everything. I mean, there's been some comics that are they're bad ones. I mean, Russ, who does the review on some of them, he's honest about it. There's definitely books. Like like I've mentioned the first book of New Dawn that came out. Honestly, I didn't think that was a strong start. Thought it was kind of weak. But there's been really good ones. Timothy Zahn doing Thrawn, unbelievable. Dark Disciple, Christy Golden, phenomenal. Saz Ventress, one of my favorite all-time Star Wars characters now. That book is incredible. So anyway, so I welcome the change. In all that summary, I welcome the change. I trust Kathleen will find the right director. So to me, this news is not heartbreaking. Cody, you go.
Not heartbreaking, that's for sure. The thing that's interesting is you said, like, when you started out that you weren't shocked, and I honestly wasn't either. And I bet a lot of people weren't shocked by it. And that's the only unfortunate thing is that there's been recently the Han Solo movie. They fired Chris Miller, Phil Lord, and replaced them with Ron Howard. And at the time when they got fired, I was pretty bummed because I had a lot of faith. I mean, there were a lot of people that were kind of questioning, like, why are these two guys who made this weird, quirky Lego movie doing a Star Wars
right.
movie? But I was like, this is going to be awesome because the Lego movie is amazing and it's hilarious. And what I was excited about is you're doing a movie like Han Solo. There's a lot at stake. You're recasting a lot of people's favorite character ever with a pretty awesome actor in Harrison Ford. And now you're trying to recast him as a younger actor that's a relatively, unknown actor. There's just a lot going against you at that point. And I was like,
right.
What better way to combat that than, hey, let's make kind of like a quirky, funny, like, that's kind of what I thought they were going for. And, I still don't know. I mean, it's yet to be seen. And, once the movie comes out, I'm still really hopeful for it. And the cool thing about Ron Howard, when he took over, is he started this really awesome, like, almost just like, I don't know if it's self-done or if they told him, hey, you need to do this every day, but like social media campaign where he's posting photos and little videos from the set. And it's honestly bought back a lot of my trust in the process and in Ron Howard. Because when they got Ron Howard, I was like, okay, it makes sense. Seasoned director, very accomplished, has made amazing films, but nothing like Chris Miller, Phil Lord, Lego movie. So I was like, I'm still just questioning what the tone of this movie is supposed to be because we haven't seen anything from it, right?
No.
So that's the thing that just kind of struck me. And I'm still bummed that we'll never get that movie that was going to be made. And the fact that Chris Miller and Phil Lord had worked on it for several months, pretty much finished shooting. That part of Kathleen Kennedy firing them still bums me out. Then this happened, and I wasn't shocked. And to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of Jurassic World.
Right.
It was good. It was fun. I loved going back to Jurassic Park and getting that. But to me, it's not like Star Wars. It's not something that it's just like ingrained in me. So I wasn't shocked, and I'm not super bummed about it. And I think, like you said, she's got to have really big cojones to be able to come in, fire directors mostly through shooting, fire directors who she handpicked probably, and getting another director. So, she knows what she's doing, and I think it'll be better for episode 9. But I think the question really is the vetting process of them having to hire and fire multiple directors, is that a problem, or is that something that's going to need to change? And I'm curious to know what you guys think, because the spinoffs I think they're going for, from what they've said, younger up-and-coming directors.
Yeah.
For the sequel trilogy, maybe that's different. You had JJ, not an up-and-comer, seasoned director. Rian Johnson, probably more in that realm. He's established, but more comes from an indie background.
Yep.
Relatively younger compared to...
Hadn't done that many films.
Right. So I think it'll be interesting.
Gareth Edwards the same, but that's that young version you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if that vetting process of getting new directors from moving forward, 9, whoever they've got, and they've probably already sealed the deal, and we'll talk about our speculation of who that could be. But I don't know, I think it'll be interesting to see how they go about hiring, knowing that this has happened multiple times.
Russ?
Me? Go. All right.
You go.
I have two quick. I'll try to make these quick. I have two quick takes on this. The first one being, and I've said this over and over and over again with the internet and the fact that we get to see behind the curtain more so now than we ever had in history. I'm sure with Star Wars or any Hollywood production company that changes with directors 2-3 years out from another movie happens more often than we ever know, or at least in the past. Now we know it the minute it happens, and that's good for us because guys like us who do podcasts can speculate all we want and make all these, have no idea what's going on really behind the scenes. It happened with Batman. It happened with, all kinds of movies. Oh, well, he's saying this. He said this. He said this one line in an interview. So does that mean there's trouble for this movie? And so we get a lot of that. I don't work for Disney. I don't work for Lucasfilm. I don't know Kathleen Kennedy personally. I don't know what's going on in their heads. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So when this kind of stuff comes up, I always take it with a grain of salt. But Dave, I do think you made a great point talking about how, and as this is coming from me as a director. If I have a script or original script that comes to me and I have creative license to direct it how I see fit, that's one thing. But with Star Wars and a franchise like this, it's technically unprecedented. Yeah, we've had, there are franchises that are out there, but Star Wars is a franchise that has lived, all this time. And I think when you get to a point where, regardless of who you hire to direct a film, I think a Star Wars film is a different beast. I think as Kathleen Kennedy is probably seen, and again, I'm just speculating on this, but from her point of view, I believe that she's protecting the brand. I think Disney protects their brands.
Yes.
I think, they protect the universe. They protect the canon, which wasn't solidified prior to, the whole Disney buying Lucasfilm, right? So now that there's a canon that must be maintained, I don't think any director, regardless of who it is, has the kind of creative freedom that they may be hoping for. Maybe some of these younger directors, that's why they hire Ron Howard. They say, Ron Howard, hey, you know how to just take what we want you to do, make it kind of your own, but still keep it within the framework of what we need this to be. And I think a guy like Ron Howard understands that. I think younger directors who've made a couple movies, movies that have done well, Jurassic World, things like that. These directors probably get into, well, I still have creative license to do what I want to do. And I'm sure there's, I think it's just a different animal, honestly. And I don't think a lot of the younger directors that are coming in, they're going to butt heads with some of these people. They're going to butt heads with the creative teams. They're going to butt heads with the story team that says, no, you got to maintain this now. It can't change. You can't do something that's out of bounds. You can't do something that's, that's why big budget movie directors, they have their big budget movies where they got to stick to a formula, and then they go off and do their own little independent film where they can creatively do whatever they want to do, to kind of express their desire as a director. That's what it's for, So I do think there's a lot of that going on. I probably do think there may be a little bit, I agree with Cody, there may be a different vetting process that has to go through with some of these directors that come in. I know you want to hire somebody new and hip and who has a different eye and things like that. But I think, again, guys like J.J. Abrams, Ron Howard, I think even Gareth Edwards did a great job maintaining what is Star Wars feel, look, story, the whole ball of wax that makes Star Wars what Star Wars is. And I think that's what they're looking for. And I think that's why when it says, he gets fired because of creative differences, that would be my speculation on it, is that, he's a young guy who wants to do his thing and put his own stamp on it. And I think there comes a point where you can't do that. And I think Kathleen Kennedy's just being a good protector of the brand, a good protector of the universe, good protector of the story, good protector of the canon. And that's why George Lucas brought her on. You can't willy-nilly go out there and just do whatever you want to do to create something totally different. I think even some of these standalone movies, you guys are right. Recasting, adding new characters, younger characters that in forms that we were not used to. If that's the case, you really got to have somebody who's really protective of what that story is, what that feel is, what that continuity is within the entire universe, So,
yeah,
that's my take on it. And it's probably just me being an older guy and kind of seeing that, I feel like, things have changed in social media, making it, again, kind of see behind the curtain more so than we've ever seen before. So there's a lot of people who get nervous about it. But, I mean, quite honestly, let's be honest. Let's call a spade here. Majority of fans aren't filmmakers.
Right.
They're fans, but they don't know the business. They don't know what goes on behind the sines. They don't know what contractual things happen. It's a whole different thing. So you gotta kind of take it a little tongue in cheek there. But bottom line, I agree with that. Kathleen Kennedy is going to do the right thing for both Disney and Lucasfilm, and I think she's just being a good protector of what we've all known and loved all these years, and we don't want to see it go off the rails into something that becomes, like Dave said, either to turn out a bunch of crap just to put it out there, to get it done. These movies are coming fast and furious, so there's got to be some quality control, and I think that's kind of what's happening here with these directors. Hopefully it doesn't happen a lot, and hopefully they learn from this process a little bit more. I think it's all a learning process because this is, again, unprecedented as far as trying to maintain a universe this big and this complex. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, and I think that again, she's definitely protecting the brand. But what people I think fail to remember, maybe they're not, but it's like she's done a little bit of this on every film so far. Because if you remember, Michael Arndt wrote The Force Awakens, and they threw that script away basically and gave it to Abrams and Kasdan. And then that's what we got was this because, Luke, those rumors Luke was much more prominent in Episode 7.
I think there was a quote from Arndt that said every time he would go to write Luke into a scene, he just completely stole the show. Yes. And it was, Harrison Ford was supposed to, Han was supposed to be very much a part of the movie and, this mentor figure for characters. And I think his quote about it, after the fact, he was able to finally talk about what his work and what he contributed a little bit. And I just thought that was interesting. I thought it was fascinating. But they just took his script and said, nope, we're going to let Kasdan and JJ.
And then Luke doesn't end up saying a word. So it's like... Yeah. So it's like she's done that, and then of course there were the reshoots on Rogue One. A lot of people speculate because they brought in, I think, Tony Gilroy, to do those. But that simply could have been Gareth was moved on to another project and couldn't make it. But then it could have been, we like his ideas for his reshoots. But Gareth got the credit anyway, full director for Rogue One. So that's what made me feel like.
He might have been more of a team player too, whereas some of these other guys, Miller and Lord may have said, this is what we want, and Kathleen or whoever from Lucasfilm said, well, that's not what we want, and they might not have been able to buckle on it. I don't know.
Yep.
And all that, the Phil Lord stuff and Chris Miller stuff, I mean, that really, to me, that being in the middle or towards the end of production, to me, was clearly about what they had shot, and the fact that you kept hearing that they were adding to the scripts while they were shooting, which is a no-no to me, especially with Kasdan. So there was a tone that was set, and then they weren't following it. And of course, that's what's called creative differences, right? So, so again, it was surprising that there wasn't a lot of more control at the beginning of them, but. Of course, the directors get on set, again, like Russ said, a lot of people don't really know the business, but directors get on set. They run the set. They're in charge of everything at that point. So no one was telling, no, it was no one else's place really besides Kathleen Kennedy, who maybe wasn't even on set, to tell them that they shouldn't be doing what they were doing. You know, so
right.
Well, and it might have been early rough cut that finally.
I'll guarantee it. They saw dailies or something.
Well, because they're probably getting dailies, throughout. But that late in the process, they probably started to put together a rough cut, and that's when they realized
this ain't working.
Something's not right. Yeah.
And you've got great actors on that set. With was it
Donald Glover?
Donald Glover,
Lando, and
and you got
Amelia
Woody
Clark,
Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
You got some great actors on that set. So, but anyway, that my real quick then. What is everybody's take on who they think is, or who would you like to see, or who you actually think that is going to be in that seat?
I mean, two probably obvious safe bets. I'd honestly like to see. Just get JJ back. Let him bring it home. He started it. Let him finish it.
Yeah.
Other safe bet, and I've heard it. Actually, I've seen it in some articles. I think Deadline was even reporting that he's probably on the short list. Is get Ryan Johnson just to continue.
Apparently, he's a front runner.
So, I mean that would be great. I would love that. If he's up for it. I mean, Russ, you talked about not a lot of people know what goes into making a movie, but if he's not too burnt out from finishing The Last Jedi, and if it's well received, that's the thing is, hopefully we hear an announcement soon. Could they wait until December, see how The Last Jedi goes if they really want Ryan Johnson? Right. I don't know. That's the hard thing is at least with, JJ, you know what you got with Force Awakens. You know what you're getting with him, with Ryan Johnson. We don't know.
Yeah.
Trailer looks great. I've heard everything's been great. He wrote it. He directed it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
So those two seem like safe bets. I mean, I've got some other thoughts, but what about you guys?
Russ?
I definitely have Ryan Johnson on my short list of people. I mean, I like him as a director, period.
Yes.
I'm kind of in the same boat with you, Cody. I'm like, well, do you kind of hold off and see how Last Jedi goes before you decide, go ahead and, put him in 9? Who knows? It might be too late in the process for that, but, he's definitely on the short list. I would say JJ as well, but I have Gareth Edwards on there, because of what he did with Rogue One. I know there were, we had reshoots at the end and stuff like that, but I think he did a good job of maintaining the Star Wars look and feel and story, and the fact that he brought Vader back to being what Vader was, and from Episode 4 when you first see him, I thought that was a great touch there. Quite honestly, this will probably be a pick that people will be like, well, I'm a homer or whatever, but I actually think they ought to take a look at Patty Jenkins. I mean, she's a hot director right now. She did a great job with Wonder Woman, and that's a franchise that DC comic book movies have been maligned for the most part, and she came in and gave it a fresh look, a fresh feel, really maintained the idea and tone of the character, and really brought her to the forefront. And I think the fact that a lot of our leads in Star Wars now are female characters. I think she has a unique take on that. And I would think, Wonder Woman not only being the success that it was financially, that definitely to me stood out as a very solid, very well crafted DC film, which could have gone off the rails big time.
Right.
Because it was a period piece, and that could have gone all different ways, but she handled it great. So she's one of the few people on my list there that I think would do a stellar job of dealing with the new characters in Star Wars. It's kind of a different feel, but can still work within the framework of what Star Wars is. I don't think she would be a director who would kind of do their own thing or would put their own stamp on it, but maintain a vision, of what this universe needs to be. So that'd be my top 3.
That's funny you say Patty Jenkins because she's on my list of. So I have a couple like outside directors that I don't know if they'll make it, but I could totally see Kathleen Kennedy going to Patty Jenkins after the success of Wonder Woman, getting a female director in Star Wars. She said it already in interviews. She wants to get a female director directing a Star Wars movie.
Interesting.
Rey is our protagonist. I mean, you get awesome slow motion lightsaber shots like Wonder Woman style.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, speaking on those lines, I'm kind of doing some research on some directors, and there were a lot of people out there that speculate on who could be one of the directors, but someone I don't know much about, but another female director who was originally slated to do Wonder Woman is Michelle McLaren.
Right.
She's done Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, with Walking Dead. She's done a lot of big action sequences, big budget pieces. So she's not unfamiliar with it. So, that might be another outside. That'd be an outside choice for me. Like, who would you look at?
Right.
Who done some things that could step up and have maybe a new take on something or different ways of doing things, especially big action sequences, which I think, you get to episode 9, I think you're gonna have a lot of that, bringing this, final trilogy home. So that'd be one. And I also think that maybe long shot, but someone you should look at and think about. And this is an older guy, obviously, but Lawrence Kasdan. Why not?
Right. Yeah, true.
Yeah. I know he's kind of, happy doing what he's doing now, but let's bring him back for the last one,
Yeah.
He did my favorite. He did my favorite Empire, so
Yeah.
I throw him in there as well, because again, he's a good steward of what Star Wars is. So,
I think all those are great. Obviously, I've thought about most of those. I think that my gut tells me it's going to be Rian Johnson.
Yeah,
that's what my gut tells me. Just because, look, another thing we try to talk about in the business, and again, we're not in the business, but I feel like with our experience, we've done a lot of stuff in movie related, and we know the process. But the big thing about Hollywood and directors is not only do you have to mesh creatively, but timing, because so many directors are already committed to other projects. It's not like you can just say, because then they leave that project and then they're missing. You know what I mean? It starts all over again. So so it is timing. Who's available? Who's not working? Unfortunately, it's like, well, Patty Jenkins apparently is in talks to do Wonder Woman 2. So that would
has
fall.
She signed that deal yet?
No.
See, that's interesting. Maybe she already knew about the Trevorrow thing back when, because everybody's like, why hasn't she signed the Wonder Woman 2 thing yet? It's just like a no-brainer.
Completely possible.
But who knows?
So, again, Rian Johnson is engrossed in it. I don't think he's got a project in the works right now. Maybe he's got his own he's been thinking about doing, but he's so into it. The cast loves him. I feel like that's JJ. I think, even though I would love to have JJ back, I think I think he's moved on. He's done his thing. And again, JJ did it right, and I love The Force Awakens. But what I love about Rogue One, and I really love the Rogue One. I really love Rogue One. I love it more and more each time I watch it. And what I really love about what I think I'm going to love about The Last Jedi, Edwards and Ryan are huge Star Wars fans. Mm-hmm. Like, Abrams is a fan, but he's not a fanboy. These guys, they're us. They're us directing Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I mean, and if I'm Ryan and I have the chance to direct Episode 9, I'm doing it. So I feel like he's probably even championing, trying to say, hey, here's my thoughts on 9. This is what I want to go, blah, blah, blah. So that's why my gut tells me that.
I don't know if he did or if he was supposed to, but did he write a treatment for 9?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was the case.
He wrote an outline for it, correct.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's changed now, obviously because of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the whole thing has changed. I think that's really, to me, that's what I think how this whole director thing started, was that happened. Okay, we have to change 9. And he had his thoughts, and Kathleen had hers, and it didn't mesh. Boom, it's over.
Yeah.
So anyway, I agree. Patty Jenkins would be great. I threw out I thought of a name earlier. But again, I think he's committed, but he's a big success with Disney with his movies. I thought Jon Favreau would be a good selection because he's a big Star Wars fan. He's done Disney movies, Iron Man, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2. But you see, he's tied to Lion King right now. So I don't think that's possible. He's doing Lion King. And that's an animated movie, so he's stuck on that for at least 2-3 years. But here's a name that I want to say is probably, if it's not Rian Johnson, I actually think it's going to be this guy, which I'm surprised neither of you guys said. Steven Spielberg.
It's true. I almost just didn't say him because I didn't think that he would do it. But I would love Spielberg to do a Star Wars. If
Kathleen Kennedy asked Steven Spielberg to do a Star Wars movie, I don't know. Again, timing. I don't know what he's working on. I think he's always got something in the works.
I think he's already finished shooting. What's the VR movie that's based on the book?
Oh, Ready Player One. That's done. Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, Ready Player One.
Now I know. There's an Indiana Jones movie coming out again. I don't know if he's doing that.
He is on Indiana Jones 5.
So, but it sounds like they could push that back a little bit. I mean, that's Lucasfilm, right?
Yeah, they could. If anybody could, they could. Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, that'd be so good. A Spielberg Star Wars movie, and to be Episode 9, that would be.
So that would be my want. If it wasn't Rian Johnson, I want Steven Spielberg to do a Star Wars movie.
He'd be great.
I had the Spielberg on the radar.
Yeah,
but I'm much like Cody. I just didn't know if he would do it.
I would think he would only do it because of Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah. Possibly. I mean, I would not. I would not be upset with that choice whatsoever. But
it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
would be awesome.
and maybe after Ready Player One comes out, that's a pretty sci-fi heavy movie that he hasn't really tackled in a while. So maybe gets him fired up to do something like that. So yeah. That would definitely be cool.
That would be cool. And the bottom line is, I think if it's not 9, I do think Spielberg is going to do a Star Wars movie eventually.
Really?
I do think he's going to.
That'd be awesome.
I think with Kathleen and what he's seeing what's happening, and and all these different directors, I just think that there's going to be a story that comes along where Kathleen's like, "Would you want to do this one?" Yes, that's the one I want to do. Maybe it's Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So I think there's something, Ewan McGregor directed by Spielberg. Come on, man.
That'd be good.
Awesome.
That'd be good.
So anyway,
incredible.
I think obviously we will be talking about this in the coming episodes. Hopefully we hear something. I mean, I'm with you, Cody, though. I'm not sure we'll get anything before episode 8 comes out. I don't know. Maybe... Because obviously, it's two ways. They knew somebody that was going to replace, so they got rid of him, or they got rid of him and now they're looking. Mm-hmm. Could they wait for the success of 8 to really,
especially if it's Rian Johnson? Yeah, I don't know,
because they weren't. As far as I see, that's the thing though, is that I think we've read that they will start shooting episode 9 the 1st of 2018
in January,
because the release date is not, as of right now, it's not December. It's May of 2019. So you've got to get a shot early of next year to get it done. So you should be putting a director in very soon to start the pre-production process, which is several months. Obviously, you have the cast beyond whatever new characters are going to add, but the main cast is still there. And whether or not, I don't know. We don't know if there's a full script yet. We don't know any of that. So is the director coming in going to write it? Anyway, so there's a lot of questions to be asked. I don't think it's going to be a fast process. So it could be several weeks though until we actually get an answer.
I have a few names to throw in the pot that we haven't mentioned for potential directors. Thinking in line with a female director, Ava DuVernay. She directed Selma, and then currently just came off of A Wrinkle in Time, which I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for it, If not, check it out. But it's a Disney movie, so she's very connected there. And
I've heard her name. I haven't seen the trailer yet.
I don't know if you all have listened to the J.J. Abrams commentary from Force Awakens. It's hard to find because it actually only came out on the 3D Blu-ray
Correct.
set. And I actually went out and got it because I'm a huge Abrams fan. And he talks about a scene at the end of Force Awakens with Rey, and he screened Force Awakens to Ava DuVernay, asked her opinion on this scene with Rey, what he should do on the fight scene with her and Kylo Ren. And there's like a moment where right before or after, I think it's when she goes to right before she knocks him down, where they added a scene. They went and reshot some stuff, and it was based on her suggestion. So I think there's just little connections like that that make her kind of interesting because she's, somewhat connected to obviously Disney, being a director, being a female director. I could see them going that route if Patty Jenkins isn't available and looking for someone else like that. Two other names came up actually when The Force Awakens, when Abrams first said no and they had to start looking for other people. Matthew Vaughn
Yes.
did X-Men First Class. His name was, I feel like it was up there a lot in some articles I was seeing. And then Brad Bird, Mission Impossible 3, Incredibles, Iron Giant, and then what did he just do recently? Tomorrowland, which that's the one movie on his resume where I'm like you always think for a director, what have you done recently? Well, you look back at Tomorrowland and I'm like, I just wouldn't be jazzed about.
But now he's doing
those guys
too now, right?
He is, so he might be unavailable. But those are two names that have worked on big budget, even some sci-fi movies,
Disney connected, that
I could see them going. If it's not JJ, if it's not Rian Johnson, they would kind of be safe choices.
Right.
I could see them going that route, but I really hope it's Rian Johnson or Spielberg, or I think I'd be even excited to see a Patty Jenkins Star Wars movie.
But another just if we're talking about female directors, one of them, I would say also one of the most popular was Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah.
That did Zero Dark 30, Hurt Locker.
Zero Dark 30 was great.
Oh, it's a phenomenal movie. She just did Detroit that just came out.
Yeah, it's got a lot of buzz
does that have John Boyega? Yeah.
See?
Yep. John Boyega's in it. Mm-hmm.
She does a lot more gritty realism.
Yeah, sure.
So it would be
it's very much like Gareth. I feel like Gareth Edwards almost with Rogue One. That kind of style. But she can Star Wars it a little bit, obviously. But
very experienced director.
The only controversy I would say about this now, I don't know if you guys, but she's married to James Cameron. Cameron had some choice words about Wonder Woman recently. I don't know if you it sounds like you heard about that, Russ.
I read more of Patty Jenkins' response to it than I did what Cameron actually said.
Yeah. About the female heroine and all this stuff. And
I read his comments. He's too busy working on sequels of a movie that hasn't had a sequel for like 6 years. No,
it's been 10 years, I think.
The guy is a great director, but dude,
man, I know.
I mean, why has Avatar 2 not come out yet? It doesn't make sense. I don't know. Not really excited to see it either. It's been too long.
But again, what was the? I don't want to get too political, but what was the point? There really wasn't a point. I mean, you don't have to say it. You can say that. You can say that to your friends over a drink, but why put it out there? That's just really dumb. So in my mind, Kathleen might be like, no,
could be.
Now I'm definitely going to hire Patty Jenkins just
to spite it, right? Yeah.
So, I thought her. Like I say, I only read Patty Jenkins' response to it, but I think her response was great,
phenomenal
to what he said. Other than the fact that it sets women's characters back. Where her response is, well, if he, what the things that she said to me were more poignant about, hey, you just don't get it. Type of thing versus like you're wrong or whatever. It was pretty eloquent how she put everything. So, she's a pretty strong director in and of herself. I think stand up for herself like that. And
obviously Kathleen's a very strong businesswoman too. So, but she's going to do what's right for Star Wars. I mean,
absolutely.
But regardless of how much it seems that there's a lot of focus on the female hero in Star Wars. I don't know if you've heard the show a few episodes ago, but Casey actually did the research and read it about it and brought it up. But it's still heavy on the men, and it's starting to average out. But if there's that good balance, I think that's the whole point. And I think there's some people out there reacting that it's too heavy now on women, and that's because of Kathleen Kennedy. She's a woman, that it's going to be more skewed. I don't think that's true, because there are still, again, you look at the books and the comics and stuff like that. I mean, Poe Dameron has his own comic series. These books coming out. Twilight Company is basically all men, and anyway, so it's just not true. And although Rey, Jyn, they're kind of in the forefront now of the movies, but we're going to see we're going to see Luke Skywalker take a prominent role, I think, in this next movie.
Oh man,
yeah, no, I agree.
So. Well, and they don't with The Force Awakens, like they didn't force in or shoehorn any like love stories with Rey or anything like that. They just let her be her own character, and I think that's what's really good about it, and what you can tell they're being delicate and care about the story.
Yeah,
they're not leaning on tropes that we see in a lot of other action movies.
But I think it also gets lost too that it's not just Kathleen. George created Leia and Padme, probably two of the strongest female characters in Star Wars. I mean, up until maybe a Rey and Jyn, but I mean, both of them weren't just rich princesses that did ordered people around. I mean, they were war heroes, and So anyway, it's always been there. So it's just seems like that is now. Forces of Destiny that just came out, the little animated series. That's female centric, but again, my girls love it. I mean, there's a plan there. I mean, they're trying to get young females into Star Wars, right? I mean, it's all part of the plan.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know, guys. This has been a fantastic episode. So much to talk about right now. This past week has been loaded with news. I feel like we were getting a little stale there because there hasn't been anything on The Last Jedi. I mean, I still know. I mean, I don't know. Do we need another trailer? I mean, I don't need another trailer. I want another trailer.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I need another trailer.
I want one, but I don't need
now. Now, a lot of my time right now, as you know, I'll just say, is I'm cutting these new fan trailers that we're putting out, as well as these commentaries. We're running this as our journey to Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Each month, we're putting out a commentary and a fan film for all the films. We're in the month of September now, which is actually, you're getting two, because since Rogue One and A New Hope to me is almost one big movie now. We did two commentaries for that. We're going to put it out in September. It should be out by the time you're listening to this. Guests on those commentaries, we had Jeb Smith, a good buddy of ours, for Rogue One. Russell Johnson, who you've been listening to on this episode right now, is on episode 4. So go check those out. Those are on a YouTube channel right now. Go to InsideTheForce.com to get links to all those. Of course, they're all over our social media. And then, of course, next month in October, we will have episode 5 with guest Chad Perkins. November, we'll see episode 6 with a guy named D House that kind of does one of our gaming podcasts called The Jedi Trials for Star Wars Destiny. And then, of course, Cody Guiler, sitting right here next to me, will be on episode 7, which will come out 1st of December, leading up to the release.
Right before.
I'm going to put that out there December 1. 15 days later, we'll be watching episode 8.
I can't wait.
Nice.
Oh, I can't wait.
In our own theater again, I promise. I'm going to get that for us again. So, can't wait. Great. It's just a great time to be a Star Wars fan. I keep saying that, and you guys being on here, it's just incredible getting all this stuff and seeing all this stuff. So, again, more to talk about in the coming weeks. I see 97 days till Last Jedi, so Cody said that earlier. Of course, October 16th again, the debut of Season 4, the final season of Rebels. Just got a lot of stuff we're getting into these next few months. I will have a review probably next week of Twilight Company as well as Lords of the Sith. I did Lords of the Sith. I did The Perfect Weapon by Delia Dawson, which was a really short about Bazine Natal, the bounty hunter's assassin that is in The Force Awakens. she calls in the First Order at Maz's place. She did a real short story about that. So I did that book, and then I'm finishing up Twilight Company. So I'll review those next week. And then I plan on putting together a quick video of all the books I've done, kind of my order, like I do with the films, my order of not so good to good,
Nice.
Yeah, so I want to do that once I get through them all. But next on the list would be Leia and Phasma before Force Awakens comes out. But all right, so all that happens. All that happens in the next few months. So keep with us at InsideTheForce.com. Of course, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Inside the Force. I'm D Cottingham 21. Cody Guiler, just Cody Guiler
At Cody Guiler.
at Cody Guiler.
Twitter, Instagram.
And Russell's Director 421 on Twitter. Go follow these guys. Again, Russ is doing all the comic reviews for us. Hitting those up. Yep. Doing good, man. These are awesome. You can follow us at InsideTheForce.com and, of course, our Facebook page. We retweet them out, all that stuff. So great reviews to figure out what you want to read. And right now, I mean, this is a pretty good line. We got Vader, Phasma, Poe, Mace just started, and of course the Star Wars series.
There's not really a weak book out there right now. I mean,
Right.
like I say, some of them are a little better than others, but for the most part, they're doing a really solid job on the comic book side of things. Getting some extra stories in there. So
Yep, it's awesome. It's awesome. All right, guys. Any last parting words, Cody?
May the Force be with you.
Russ?
get out there and read those comics, man. They're good.
They are. It's all good. So appreciate it. I don't know when Casey will be back. He'll be back eventually. So if he's not back here next week, I might drag these guys back on again. So I appreciate everybody listening and sticking with us. Keep going at it, and we'll see you guys next week. For Cody,
Thanks, guys.
for Russ,
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
I'm Dave, and may the Force be with you.
Thank you for listening to Inside the Force, a Star Wars podcast hosted by David Cottingham and Casey Cooley. For more shows, additional content, articles, and the latest Star Wars news, please visit InsideTheForce.com. Inside the Force. For the Force, then all of us.